No one expected us to get through, and I had the game of my life. It was probably, it's still one of the probably the best game I've ever played, and certainly anyone who saw it, I mean, they all still talk about it. That even Big Ron still said that it was probably the best he's ever seen display, but because we should have got hammered, and we were winning 1-0 at half time. We were in the toilet at half time having a bit of relief, and Bonzo was standing beside him, and he said, I can't believe this. He said, you never know. He said, our name might be on that cup this year. He says, because we should be dead and buried now if not for you. Really? Yeah, and that was as far, that was in January.
So you won that one at the end 1-0, did you?
No, we actually drew. Cyril Regis handled it, smashed in an equaliser with about 3 minutes to go.
Really?
So we were all desperately.
And then you won a replay.
Then we won the replay 2-0.
Yeah.
At Upton Park. Then we actually played Orient, which was probably one of our biggest. That was the next round. We played Orient away, and we won that 3-2. And I mean, Orient and West Ham, great rivals, East End rivals.
But when it came to the final at Wembley, the big day, again it's a London thing because Arsenal, who were First Division.
That's right.
And overwhelming favourites.
Yes, I mean, we were the underdogs, and I think that was the great thing about it all the way through, because then we played Aston Villa, and it was, the more you look back on it, the more you think, well, you are fated to win it, because we were playing Aston Villa, and it became McNaught was centre half, and we were 0-0 with about 5 minutes to go. Taking a corner over, and for some unknown reason, he's gone up and knocked it away with his hand. And I mean, like, this is 5 minutes to go. He's under no pressure. Yeah. And Ray Stewart, the king of the penalty taker, just came up and stroked it in the net, and we've got 1-0.
He didn't usually stroke them, Phil. He used to hit them a bit harder.
He could do everything, though. That was the great thing with Ray, that you'd never, because it was a goalkeeper, you try and do your homework on the opposition penalty takers. And with Ray, he had everything. He could place them, he could blast them, and he could smack them down the middle, he'd place them. You know, he was incredible. Yes. I mean, he had a fantastic record too, didn't he?
And what do you remember of the Wembley day?
The Wembley day was fabulous. I mean, I remember Bill saying to me the day before, take everything in you can. He said, because I remember he played obviously in '75, and he said he can't remember anything about it. He said it passed him by so quickly because he was trying to take everything in so quickly, and then the next day he said he found it very hard to sort of remember anything. And so I took that as advice, and we really look back on everything now, and it was a fabulous day. I mean, even going back to the next day, going back through the East End of London with a cup, that was fabulous. That was almost as good as walking out on Wembley itself. I mean, there was people everywhere, and East Ham High Street was just a sea of bodies. It was as far as you could see. It was very, very good.
And Trevor Brooking scored, I mean, with a header, which I mean, nobody could really ever have envisaged that happening.
I don't think so, and I'll still pull his leg today that he was trying to get out of the way of it, and it hit his head. But I mean, when you look at it, actually, because it was Stuart Pearson, I think, who had a shot.
Yes.
It was a shot. There was no way, he did claim after that it was a cross, but he had a shot, miscued it, and Trevor's reactions were brilliant.
Oh, incredible!
I mean, very, very quick, and it was in. Past one of my heroes, obviously, Big Pat, in goal as well.
Yes, you're a very amiable, gentle giant with a great career behind you, Phil. You played once for England, but actually you could have played, I guess, several times more, but you decided not to. What was that all about?
That's right. That was in the era of Don Revie, and it all came about. The centenary game at Wales was being played at Wrexham, and my wife was expecting the second child, Scott. And she was not having a very good time, and so I phoned Don Revie up and said that my wife's not well. I mean, I think he couldn't get. He said, "I want you to come." He said, "I really want you to be in the squad." It was Ray Clements. Peter Shilton was injured, so he said, "I want you to be number 2. I want you in the squad." But it's a friendly game. That's all it was. It was to celebrate the centenary of the Welsh FA, and so. He said, I want you to come up here. He said, I'll come up on the Tuesday. The game was on the Wednesday. He says, come up Tuesday and train, and then you go straight back after the game on a Wednesday, and you'll definitely get a half a game. And we talked about it. Ray Clements knew all this. And so in the game, it was atrocious weather. It was dreadful. And it was in the days of the old green cotton gloves and all that. And so Ray's coming at half-time. It was 0-0, half-time. And Ray started taking his gloves off and whatever. And then Don Revie turned around and said, and I'm not going to make any changes. I want to keep the team the same because it's a tight game and I don't want to change anything. And I looked over at him and he looked at me, and I thought that was it. You know, I'll never ever play for you again. And then the end of the season came, and it was in the 75-76 season with QPR when we just missed out on the league, and obviously that was a huge disappointment. And I just thought to myself, well, I've just had enough of football for a little while. I need a break, so we'll forget it until, you know, August comes around, July comes around. And they had a close season trip, a little tournament in America. Jerry was in the side at the time, and I think two or three of the others from QPR, because at one time we had 5 in the squad at the team, and I just said no way. I phoned up, said that I wasn't going, and then I just went sort of missing really. I just disappeared because I knew the press were going to get onto it all then, and so I went away, and that's when they called up Joe Corrigan, and Jimmy Rimmer.
Jimmy Rimmer.
Yes, Jimmy was the other one. And that he.
Do you regret you did that? Looking back, do you think, well, I could have played a few more times for England, you know?
I could have done, but I've got one cap that they can never take away from me. And had I not played, then I think that would have, I would have been foolish to have sort of, you know, said no, I'm not going to do it. But I've got that one cap, and no one can take that away. So, you know, there's a lot of good players, I think, who've never ever played for England. The great example, I think, is Billy Bonds, and I'm responsible for that, I'm afraid, because I broke his ribs when Ron Greenwood was the manager. It was in that year, the 81, I think it was. We were playing Sheffield in the last game of a rearranged game, the last game of the season. We'd already walked the league and everything. We were playing up there, but we had to win to break lots of records for the club and the record number of points in the second division. And Andy McCulloch was playing centre forward for the old QPR player for Sheffield. Ball's come over, and I've come out for it, shouted for it. Bill couldn't get out of the way, and we sandwiched him in between us. And he's gone down, and straight away he said I knew something was wrong, and actually broke his rib. And he had to go back home and phone Ron Greenwood and say, you know, and Ron was really disappointed because and it was against Brazil as well at Wembley.
Because Billy was due to play against Brazil.
Against Brazil on the following week, and that really, you know, they always say you got disappointments in your life in football, and I think that's possibly one of my biggest ones, apart from just missing out on the league. I think
because if anybody deserved a cap, Billy Bonds deserved.
Yeah, he epitomises West Ham, but also what the spirit of football is about. I mean, incredible character, but a fair man, and I feel a bit sorry about that.
I think you epitomise the spirit of football as well. I enjoyed meeting you again and hearing those great old stories of West Ham and QPR. Good to see you, Phil.